Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session on aluminum. Today, we are on the third day of 10th Asian Metallurgy. This is an online trade show comprising of an exhibition called Steel and Metal Expo, where we are getting very good visitors. I appeal everybody to again come and visit the expo. And now we are having the seminar on aluminum. The subject of this seminar is innovative applications and emerging markets. This is a very I think very relevant subject of today, and the aluminum as a metal is growing. Last decade we saw growth of aluminum industry and of actually the growth of new applications, because aluminum consumption is totally dependent on the new applications and of course the emerging markets. But where does the aluminum come from? I mean, the starting point, as you all know, is bauxite, which is abundantly found in India. So we have a bauxite expert here, Mr. Ashok Nandi, President of IBAAS. Welcome, Mr. Nandi. Then we have veteran industry analyst, industry expert, Mr. B.S. Pani from Bhubaneswar. He had a long experience in NALCO, and after that also he has been very active in the industry for last more than 4 decades, Mr. Pani, isn't it? So he is an industry veteran, and I welcome Mr. Pani also. But first I will go to Mr. Nandi, who has been doing a lot of work on alumina and bauxite. So Mr. Nandi, please tell me the what is the present situation of bauxite availability, its processing, and the alumina and further aluminum industry. I would like to get a quick overview of this part of the aluminum sector from you. Mr. Nandi, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chandekar. Basically, India has huge resources of bauxite. It is in the order of 3.8 billion tons. But unfortunately, we are not able to utilize these huge resources. And some of the alumina refineries in India is entirely dependent on import. As you know, the Vedanta Alumina Refinery of Lanjigarh is sitting right on the top of Eastern Ghats bauxite deposits in the state of Odisha, but they are not getting sufficient bauxite. They are maybe presently producing about 1.8 to 2 million tons of bauxite, but they are importing huge quantity of bauxite from Guinea. So this is one of the very big issue in India. Yeah.
But why this is so? Why this is so?
Because you know very well this is a mixed things. First of all, I will tell that is a political will. If there is a political will, they will give good deposit and any deposit of bauxite to Vedanta, because this is after all national interest. It's not individual company or private or public sector. On the other one hand, NALCO is sitting on two big deposits, maybe big deposits of Pachmatmali, and they got another big deposit of Potangi. But whereas there is not a single deposit given to Vedanta and Lanjigarh Alumina Refinery. They are completely dependent at present on supply of bauxite from OMC, Odisha Mining Corporation, which is mining in the Kodingamali area. So this supplies about, say, maximum 3 million tons of bauxite. As you know, the 3 million tons is just enough to produce about 1 million tons of alumina. Whereas this plant is having capacity of about 2 million tons present capacity, and they have almost ready for expansion to 5 million tons per annum. But in case of 5 million tons, they will require 15 million tons, about 15 million tons of bauxite, depending on quality. But they don't have even a single captive bauxite mines for themselves. So this is one of the very big issue as a national interest. And I am not talking about the private or public sector. This brings, Vedanta brings a lot of employment in the country. A lot of things are there. And they are not only dependent on bauxite import, but they are also importing alumina for their survival. So this is one of the major point at present. And apart from that, there is another refinery of Hindalco in Belgaum, which is also not getting proper bauxite in west coast of India. Of course, west coast bauxite deposits are small, scattered, and not that good compared to what is available in Odisha and Andhra Pradesh.
Yes,
and that company also imports bauxite time to time from Sierra Leone and Guinea. And there is a third thing which is very important at present. This Andhra Pradesh, there is a new alumina plant is ready, which is NRAC Alumina Refinery. I think all of you know about this NRAC Alumina Refinery. This is near Visakhapatnam, and this has capacity of about 1.4 million ton. And it was almost closed for 2013. This plant had come up, but now 7 years it was closed. Now it is going to restart because of the pressure from the government, pressure from the aluminium industry, and also this promoter has now decided to restart this plant. They could not start operation because there is no bauxite in Andhra Pradesh. And you know, in Andhra Pradesh, it is banned. All the bauxite mining is banned because most of these deposits are located in the tribal belt and tribal area. So despite having
just 3.8, we keep on learning in our textbook that India has one of the largest deposits of bauxite.
This is in theory. What
an irony! What an irony!
What an irony! What an irony! This is what we say, that despite having large resources, we are not able to feed our own alumina refineries. And problem is multifold, and there are many issues. Now, recently, government of Odisha has come out for auction of one of the deposits in Odisha. That is Karlapat, or what is it name? I think Karlapat, yes. But it was abandoned, and no more this auction is going on. Whereas at least there are 5-6 deposits are there in Odisha, like CG Mali, Kutru Mali, and other deposits. A lot of small deposits are there, which can easily be given to this running alumina refinery, at least running alumina plant. You put your conditions, those things are different, but at least give them a deposit so that they can survive.
Absolutely, you are very right. In fact, I would also say that will save a lot of foreign currency also.
Exactly. You are correct.
Thing for a country like India. And,
yes.
Yeah, it is a grave problem, and I think aluminum lobby or whatever association must take up with the government so that they can do something about it. Mr. Pani, you had spent a lot of years in Alco. What has been your experience, or you must be monitoring the present situation as well. What has been your experience on this?
See, if I intervene at this stage, why are these bauxite mines not being given? Number one is after the new MMRD that came in 2015, a bauxite mine just cannot, any mineral deposit just cannot be handed over to a single party on choice as it was happening earlier, which led to the mining scam. Now it will be auctioned. And for making a deposit to be auctionable, you have to reach the G4 stage. That means the deposit has to be explored, and it to be established. Quality and quantity is to be established to minimum 60% confidence level. Then only the permission is given for auction. Dr. Nandi can correct me with these figures because I've come off and I'm saying. So unfortunately what happened is that the exploration work in bauxite in our country has been virtually zero since the 1990s. After the East Coast bauxite was just explored by GSI, they never went up to the G2, G3, G4 stage, which iron ore has been done, coal has been done, ferroalloys have been done. So they are now available for auction. And Odisha government is actually minting money out of this auction, because the money has started coming in from this auction amount. Auction amount is no longer going into the pockets of the central government. It's coming to the state. And it is over the life. Suppose somebody has bought a mine for 25,000 crores of rupees. It is to be spread over the life of the mines, which is kept at 30 years. So every year, Odisha government gets a part of this 30 years, in addition to the royalty and all. So for the government, it is very advantageous to explore. But IBM, GSI, the State Geology Department, the exploration has been very weak. That's why a part of the your royalty is now earmarked as exploration duty, which is being given to exploration. So Dr. Nandi has been a pioneer in exploration of bauxite, but how many bauxite experts are there in the country today? How many people are leading exploration today? How much of aerial exploration has been done? How much of ground exploration has been done? So unless that is strengthened, we can't become an Australia, we can't become a Guinea or Sierra Leone. So the problem lies in going for a couple of steps backwards, not with the Odisha government. Odisha government is keen. As far as ANRAC was concerned, they offered ANRAC bauxite deposits before MMRD came in, and said, provided you decide to set up the smelter and ensure that 50% of your aluminium is converted into value-added products within the state, which ANRAC failed to do. So they said, all right, you are welcome to come and bid as per the new MMRD as convenient to you. So it's an unfortunate situation, one leading into the other. Experts like Dr. Nandi should be seriously involved in national planning to get over this crisis. This is my submission on the subject. Dr. Nandi.
Thank you, Mr. Pani. You are to some extent correct that exploration is lagging behind. But frankly speaking, most of these bauxite deposits were explored in detail by MECL, Mineral Exploration Corporation Limited, during 80s and late 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s. But unfortunately, those exploration reports are available. And they are all almost of the G4 standard, what you are referring. Somebody has to cross-check these things and just certify. Unfortunately, this business of auctioning has become too commercial things. Actually, the private company should be given and they should explore these deposits. Otherwise, government has its own limitation. You know very well how this GSI, MECL, and other companies, they work. They have their own priorities, they have their own things, and they are involved in hundreds of things. And they cannot concentrate in one or two. And now, after this MMRD Act and after this auctioning process, whole process has collapsed of exploration by private entity. Because private entity, when they see that bauxite deposit after exploration cannot be given to them, so they lost interest. That's why we should explore any deposit or anything. One thing is this one. Second, what is happening when you have a captive bauxite mines? For example, I'll just give you Baflimali bauxite mines for Hindalco. Hindalco has very judiciously using this bauxite deposit. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mario. Sorry, we are discussing.
Hello, Mr. Mario. How are you?
Good morning to everybody. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mario.
In Italy, it's very early. It is the 7 in the morning.
Yes, we can understand.
We are.
Okay.
Thanks for coming to office at such a early, in early morning. And Mr. Nandini, please continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for
Welcome, Mr.
example,
Mario.
if there is a captive mine associated with alumina refinery, then
Okay.
what they do, they try to increase the life of the mine by reducing the cutoff grade, by reducing the quality. This is very clear. If you are able to accept alumina refinery, a lower quality bauxite, then life of the mine increases. And this is what judiciously they are doing it. For example, in Australia, the required quality, quality is about 29-28% available alumina for Worsley Alumina Refinery of Australia, where I was working during.
With permission of everyone, I'm continuing with my coffee time.
Yeah,
Please continue.
Yes.
Whereas in India, still we use fairly high grade bauxite, but even 35% available alumina is suitable for alumina refineries in India. But unfortunately, that kind of bauxite is all not given to them. There are huge laterite mines, which can also be given to alumina refineries. They can partly beneficiate it, and they can use those aluminous laterite mines also. So these are all issues are there. And normally, captive mines are always advantageous for the alumina refinery because they can decrease the grade and they can increase the life of the mine. But when third-party mining is there, it is not of much interest for them to increase the quality and resources. And then buyer is also interested to get a higher grades. So ultimately, it takes toll on the life of the mine. Anyway, now since Mr. Mario has joined, I will request Mr. Chandekar to introduce him and start discussion on this.
Yes.
I'll just, Chandekar, I'll just add to Dr. Nandi's continuation of what he has said.
Yes.
There has been a third amendment in MMRD. Now, my auction is to be done at G2 stage itself, which is called the exploratory auction. And bauxite mines have been, G2 stage auction has been done, and Vedanta has got 2 new deposits. So they will be allowed to do the exploration. And once the exploration is over, there will be auction, but the explorating company will get priority over others.
Which are these 2 deposits, Mr. Pani?
Yeah.
Which is
Sasbo Mali has gone to them. Again, one part of Sasbo Mali and Kutri Mali has gone. And third thing is that now the people who have captive mines, they have been permitted to sell in the open market certain amount of bauxite.
Mr. Pani, this will not be at all helpful because no company will be ready to sell their bauxite, neither Nalco nor Hindalco. None of these companies will be interested to sell their bauxite to any company because some people we are telling, but bauxite is such a precious thing and which it is imported. They'll like to produce alumina. Nobody will like to sell their bauxite to a third party.
Then the third thing that I wanted to put before you is that in 2015 at Dubai IXOBA, I had presented a paper on the economics of setting up of smaller size alumina plants. What has been happening over the last 25 or 30 odd years is that the Western countries had taken monopoly on technology. And the technology is being developed in such a way that only the larger and the largest of the alumina plants are meeting the scale of economy. For that, you need the largest of the most extensive deposits, and the smaller deposits are being neglected. So I worked out an economics that you can go back to the smaller alumina plants, 1 lakh tons, 50,000 tons, 75,000 tons, depending upon the smaller deposits, scattered deposits. Like Balco was originally planned for Putka Pahad, which was a scattered deposit. So smaller, it was a 1 lakh ton plant. And it can be with value-added products coming in, like special grade alumina, and still extending up to refractories and castables and a lot of byproducts of alumina and hydrate. The smaller ones are economical. So somehow this policy, the Western technology developers have been pushing us into making our smaller deposits uneconomical to mine. So this is a short one, and someday maybe we will talk about it. And
Mr. Pani, you are correct. You are correct. And this connection, already 2 small refineries have already come up in India. One has come up in Gujarat, Credo Minerals, and they are doing great job. This is 56,000 tons of alumina, special alumina. And the second refinery is coming up in Chhattisgarh. And this also company is trying to set up a plant of 250,000 tons of special alumina or a special calcined alumina. So these efforts are entirely being made by indigenous people, indigenous technology. We are not asking Rio Tinto Alcan or not asking Worldly Parson to provide technology.
Excellent.
Everything is done indigenous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Nandi. And thank you, Mr. Pani. We have discussed, a lot of things about the Indian alumina and bauxite industry. Now that Mr. Conserva is here, I again welcome Mr. Conserva, and I would request him to give a glimpse of the aluminum industry in Europe. That's what, then we will shift our discussion slightly towards new applications and emerging markets also. But before that, I want to request Mr. Conserva to present a status report of European aluminum industry. But before that, I would like to again introduce Mr. Conserva. Mr. Conserva has more than 4 or 5 decades of experience in aluminum industry, especially, and he is the founder and organizer of a very successful aluminum show like Metef. So it is again happening from 9 to 11 June in 2022. And I would now request Mr. Conserva to present the status report of aluminum industry in Europe. Mr. Conserva, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chandekar. Thank you to all my friends for this invitation to take part to your I see very good and very efficient event. My role, as Mr. Chandekar said, is to give you a short vision of what is happening in Europe about the aluminium system. As you know, in Europe, but I suppose anywhere in the world, we all are confident that the aluminum industry is essential to the economies of advanced countries, and it provides a range of highly differentiated semi-finished products. And I don't know very well the very upstream sector as you were speaking of before. You are speaking of bauxite, alumina. I suppose that in the future also this type of problems will be very important for the future of the aluminum system. Anyhow, my better knowledge is that about the downstream sector of aluminum. And from this point of view, Europe is a well-structured system comprising almost everything from the primary production to the semis production, foundry castings, and obviously final applications. The structure of this industry in Europe has changed significantly in recent years. And since 2008, the European Commission shown a growing attention to the aluminum sector, to the aluminum value chain, triggering interest in an appropriate industrial policy for the sector. The light metal supply chain has also been projected in the last year even more at the center of the political debate relating to the recovery after dramatic effects of COVID-19 that you anyhow see also in these days. In particular, due to the technical characteristics of the light metal, the strong natural aptitude for recovery and recycling, that is one of the most important eco-sustainability characteristic. This is a very good requirement, and this is an aptitude to represent the champion of our metal for the circular economy tool. The European aluminum industry today includes over 2,500 companies active in the primary and the secondary production of raw metal, and in the first transformation into semi-finished products, extrusions, rolled products, foundry castings, with an estimated overall employment before COVID-19 of more than 1 million employees in the entire value chain, with a turnover, EU plus the countries of EFTA, of around 55 billion euros. The sector is anyhow characterized by few alumina production plants and by a now limited and continuously decreasing number of primary aluminum production sites. Smelters and the rolling mills are often owned by multinationals, while the majority of the plants involved in extrusion and recycling and the foundry castings are small to medium enterprises in the downstream sector of raw metal production. There are, moreover, many thousands of small companies, most not vertically integrated, representing over 90% of the chain workforce and generating over 70% of the turnover. This is an important point from our side. I am very much involved in the downstream development of the aluminum sector, and I am the general secretary too of the Federation of Aluminum Consumers in Europe. So that my interest is mainly very much interested in the development of the downstream. As to the primary production and demand in Europe, what we can say is that the scenario has changed very deeply in these last years. You know very well the situation. China now represents about 58% of the global production of metal, and this is an important point. Other countries like Western Europe, like US, have lost importance. Many others, the Gulf, India, and obviously China, have grown their importance. Anyhow, the most important thing is that in Europe, the production of primary aluminum has decreased about 35-38% starting since 2008. For the reason, the aluminum supply chain of primary metal largely depends on imports from abroad, and this is a very important cost for downstream transformation. This geographic relocation of primary production responds, obviously, as we all know, to the need to seek lower costs in terms of energy, transformation of raw materials, and the transportation. The number of smelters in Europe, as I was saying, decreased very strongly. I have given some, you have in your paper, the papers I sent to Mr. Chandekar, there are the figures related to the pre-COVID situation. Just to just to show just to give the real situation in a normal status. Now the situation is changing, and probably there is some recovery, not surely not in the area anyhow of primary metal. According to the certain data by the European Aluminium Association, only in the European Union, only 5 smelters are present today, and they are located in France, Germany, Greece, Netherlands, Spain, Romania, Slovakia. Many countries have lost, as is the case of Italy, has lost its primary production in the last 10, 15 years. And only European Union represents only about 3.5% of the global production of primary metal.
Okay.
Primary production. The secondary production is, on the contrary, the sector of secondary production of aluminum in Europe is very, very much active historically. And at the moment, we can say that the secondary metal gives a contribution of about 35% to the global needs of European Union. Today, it is estimated that the production of secondary metal in Europe is about 3.5 million tons. Let's go rapidly to the semi-finishing products. Semi-finished products, I mainly focus on rolled products, so extrusions and the foundry castings. Starting from the rolled products, you all know very well what is the final destination of these final products, from electrical uses to the cable, to the automotive, to the machinery, defense, armor equipment. The construction sector is very important for producing cladding, sidings, roofs, caravans, mobile homes. You all know this type of the market. Anyhow, according to the EA statistics, the European internal demand of rolled products in 2019 was about 5,000 kilotons. Aluminum billets going to the extrusions are the starting inputs to the extrusion process, and according to the EA statistics, the European internal demand of extrusions in 2019 was about 3.3 kilotons. Finally, let's go to aluminum castings. And the pressure die castings. They are used for automotive parts, cylinders, heads, engine blocks, transmission housings, etc. Germany, Italy, and France are the largest producers of this type of foundry castings in European Union. And the pre-COVID situation, and in the pre-COVID situation, they represent about 60% of the total production. In the current aluminium production, the current situation is a strong recovery from the very dangerous effect in decreasing the need of the products in Europe. I have not at the moment all the data for all the European situation, all the countries, mainly of the European Union. We have just discussed it yesterday in our Aluminium Association in Italy, the situation of 2021, the present situation, and we have a good signal of excellent recovery. about 30% in the extrusions, in more or less the same in rolled products, and I suppose the same in the foundry casting situation. That is, we more or less have come back to the good figures we had in 2018, for example, when the situation was very quiet. Going to Italy, I can say that we have today, the report of yesterday was for a provision of 2.2 million tons of final uses of aluminum in Italy in all the forms, more or less well divided between extrusions, rolled products, and the foundry castings, with a return to the pre-COVID situation, and in some cases, this is the case of the extrusions, we have in a very good situation. These are the figures of the aluminum system in Europe, a situation of a steady market. The situation of the aluminum uses in Europe. Europe was a pioneer in the developments of many types of applications. Now the growth of the European demand of semi-finished products and foundry castings is not growing as it is growing in the other world countries.
Conserva,
yeah.
Should I also show the slides which you have
Yeah, you can show the slides. You can show the slides. You can show, but they contain more or less what I have said.
Yeah, we will just show the slides, and you can again, explain a bit about the slides.
Yeah.
I will start showing.
Yeah. Anyhow,
yes.
Yeah, I can show. Well, in this case, you see, it is very clear. It is very clear for my friend that are looking. This is the situation I have described about the aluminum upstream and the aluminum downstream sector generally. Go on, Mr. Chandekar.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the subject that I will speak about just now. So that this is a good slide to show. These slides show what is the extra cost for the European Union downstream of aluminum due to the trading situation. As you know, and as I have said before, the European Union needs a lot of primary metal because we produce only 25% of our needs, so that we are obliged to import 75% of our needs of primary metal. And these needs will continue to survive because the secondary aluminum role will never be able to cover the global needs of European Union aluminum.
Next slide.
No. This slide is showing what is the cost we have calculated for the duty in raw aluminum import that we have in Europe, and this is a severe risk, a severe damage for the European aluminum downstream users, because we have to pay, they have to pay the rollers, the extruders, and the final users have to pay, have paid in 10 years more than 17.8 billion euros more than they should, and the other countries that have no the duty have to pay. This means an extra cost per ton of aluminum used since $150 per ton. And this is a severe risk for the development of the aluminum sector. Go to the next slide. The duty is one of the most severe problem for the aluminum final downstream sector in Europe. Now we have another severe risk, the risk that of the decarbonization. Decarbonization is a very good thing. It is necessary to do in the world at a world level, but it has a cost. Presently, the European Commission presented a proposal of decarbonization mechanism also related to some main goods, and aluminum is included in this. And according to our evaluations, our Association of Aluminium Consumers, the cost of this mechanism should be 3 times the over cost of the aluminum duty. This means this is a very severe threat. This is a very severe threat for the aluminum final users in Europe, and this is what we are working to in this period, just to show the severe risk of this route to the decarbonization. In our opinion, and this is what we are saying to the European governments and to the European politicians, it is necessary to review absolutely this mechanism, because the cost, the extra cost for the aluminum system of downstream should be very, very, very high. In conclusion, it is clear that the competitive advantage of the EU aluminum value chains lies in the technological leadership of the global value chain activities. And this is what the European system has always shown in the time. But it is necessary to introduce new trading rules, because it is a priority to eliminate international breaks of a duty in a raw material that we have, and that we cannot import without a taxation. We can't, for example, have free of duty material from India or from Russia or from South America. We have to pay a duty that severely influence the capacity of competition of our downstream. Then the next slide, it is the final one, Mr. Chandekar. Next slide, that is showing the industrial policies policy recommendation that we give to our system. We think, in conclusion, we think that our metal, aluminum, is the champion today in the area of material. And aluminum is at the center of the recovery that we our politician forecast for the next years. Aluminum is the best, the champion of the materials for in the industrial sectors, and we have in front of us a very wide capacity of growth. But it is necessary, first of all, to think also of the eco-sustainability of this metal. It is a good thing to think of primary production at a very low carbon imprinting. It is a needs for the next year, for the next years, and a good signal that most a big number of primary producers in the world, from Rusal to Hydro to Alcoa to Rio Tinto and many others, from AGA in the Middle East, think and are involved in this green transformation. It will be necessary to give much more strength to our metal. This is all. I suppose that you have the material I have sent to my friend Chandekar, and if you need some if you have some question, obviously I am at your disposal. Thank you for the attention in this too long presentation, but the system is very complex. Now the trading questions are have a very big importance. Probably we will have much more in the future. Thank you, my friends.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Conserva. It was really very nice and very interesting presentation. We could know what is the status of aluminum value chain in European markets. We also knew that we came to know that Europe imports 75% of the primary aluminum and only 25% is produced indigenously. So here are the opportunities for other players, other countries, other regions to be supplier of major supplier of primary aluminum to European nations.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
Mr. Chandekar. You know that we with Metef have always given, for example, a big importance to the good relationships with your country. We also in our last edition of Metef, we had a full day devoted to the possible relationships between the Italy and India about the primary production market, so that we shall continue in this line.
Definitely. And thank you very much, Mr. Conserva. Now we move on to this applications, new applications. We were earlier, before the start of the program, Mr. Pani was showing me something made of aluminum. So that it was, I think, laptop stand. So I would request Mr. Pani to, if you have any questions for Mr. Conserva, please go ahead, Mr. Nandi or Mr. Pani. And then after that, we can move on to this application part. And then, let us talk about new applications and from there, the emerging markets. Mr. Nandi, do you have any questions for Mr. Conserva?
Yeah, Mario, we would like to understand the energy scenario of Europe, because that is the biggest hurdle at present for primary and secondary aluminum producers. And what are the alternatives available in Europe for this energy solution?
It is a very good question. Every day in Italy, in every meeting devoted to aluminum now, we are discussing of the energy question. At the moment, our first task is that of improving the recycling, the aluminum recycling process, trying to optimize the best, because at the moment we have no energy at disposal. Our only possibility, in my personal vision, is that if we want to solve the problem energy in Europe, it will be necessary to think of the nuclear energy in the future. There is no other choice.
I understand.
Yeah. Mario, I think you had come to Bhubaneswar earlier with the Italian Association of Aluminium, and we had a meeting at NALCO about, we discussed the economics of your semis production. Were you here in Bhubaneswar some years back?
When
Oh, it was quite a few years. Anyway, we'll leave that.
Yeah.
I'll straight away, since we are running out of time now, I'll straight away come to the point of aluminium emerging markets. There are more than 190 countries in the world, and there are only 38 countries which produce primary aluminium. And this number is coming down year by year. And the whole center of primary aluminium production is moving towards the Eastern Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere is concentrating on secondary aluminium side, and the Eastern Hemisphere, where the raw material is available more easily, and the logistic also to Africa, which is emerging as one of the main resources of aluminium bauxite, is Eastern sector. Now, when we are talking of emerging markets, we are talking of primary aluminium. Primary aluminium, as Mario has said, that Europe is a big consumer. That doesn't mean that China and India and Korea and Japan, these are the countries which are not going to consume more aluminium. India is going to consume now, it's targeting at producing 3.5 million tons, but our demand is going to be around 5.5 million tons by 2030. And already this year, the demand has outstripped supply from the existing primary producers by nearly 1 million tons. So we're going to import this time. Now, when it comes to secondary aluminium, India unfortunately has very lopsided policies. Eastern Hemisphere is also a lopsided policy. The interesting part of it is that nearly all 190 countries in the world, secondary aluminium exists in some form or the other. Small and cottage industries producing utensils and small tools exist in some form or the other. And in Africa, and even the smallest part of the Africa also, the aluminium components are being recycled in a crude way to produce utensils and low-use material. But the supply chain is not ending there. It's the semis. From primary aluminium, the semis are to be produced. India imports, of this 100 million tons which is going to be imported, almost 80% is going to be semis. And semis are going to be in the form of alloys. The problem with India is that we have not invested in producing alloys. None of our research laboratories and none of our specialized units have worked on this thing. Some time back, I visited China and saw the Henan province where there's a one full city which is producing only automobile alloys for the whole of the world. The Tesla is going to produce 2.5 million cars in China. And Tesla uses 86 different types of alloys. And all these alloys are going to be produced in Henan district and Henan city and supplied to Tesla. So Tesla is very comfortable and still reluctant to come to India because it will have to bring in these components from there. We are talking about innovations. If you had seen the coach, the kind of extrusion innovations China has done, the whole of your railway coaches being extruded in super heavy extrusion presses in 4 sections and integrated. This is a very small thing, beautifully packed in this. You open this, put here, and keep your laptop on it to any angle you like. And you can fold it and carry it with you in your this thing. This is made in China. This is just an example of what innovations China does. They are thinking about Tesla, they are thinking about this thing, but they are also thinking about this. I am drinking water from this Harvard Business School's bottle. It is double-walled aluminum bottle made in China. I'm surrounded with this German headphones, which is again made from China. This is not just pure aluminum, magnesium, silicon alloys, and Tesla's 86 alloys are all rare earth induced castings, rare earth induced extrusions.
Interesting article.
Yeah. So this kind of technology is also moving out of Europe because European universities are no longer investing into research. Italian university, you are losing $50 a ton in your supply chain by importing raw material. India imports 100,000 tons of nearly 1 million tons of semis for its automobile. Last year, India produced 28 million automobiles. Can you believe 27.8 million automobiles? As I was talking to you, I was noting down these figures. 80% of our cars, four-wheelers, and India is the largest producer of two-wheelers.
Yes.
When Indiana and Harley Davidson in USA were becoming non-competitive in the market, they developed a casting place in Australia, the city named Liverpool, where which is exclusively producing castings for Harley Davidson and Indiana motorbikes, complete set of components put in a box and sent it, exported to Japan, where also they are being assembled, and they are also being assembled in USA. So you see, you can't think in isolation when it comes to innovation. You can't think in terms of supply chain and emerging market in isolation in this world anymore. The focus has moved. Primary producers have moved out. Semis are still in Europe, but Europe is better advised to move your semis production and take back finished products out of these primary aluminum producing countries. When India starts producing 5.5 million tons and China produces nearly 10 million tons of aluminum, you're going to import from them. Russia, even if it goes to 5 million tons, Russian own demand is outstripping their production. You're not going to get from there. Korea doesn't produce aluminum. Japan doesn't produce aluminum. They buy from us. Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia produces automotive, Sri Lanka. These are the countries which are getting into industrialization. Middle East. Unfortunately, what is happening is that because of the COVID, out of the 190 countries, almost 80% of them, Europe and few Asian countries left together, the economies are collapsing. Markets is supplier and buyer both put together is a market. So the buyer market is going to collapse in the next 3-4 years. The supplier market is going to remain more or less stable for the next 4-5 years, but after that it has to pick up. When will these economies rise? When will COVID pandemic stop? And when will countries like Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, and many of these countries, and in Latin America, many of these countries, when will their economies evolve? That's the bad news. The good news is that these countries all put together have a population and aluminium demand, which is less than what Maharashtra needs. Okay, so you see, the focus is going to be the planners in Italy. We had a very long discussion with the Aluminium Association of Italy in Bhubaneswar. We said, come here, we'll give you hot metal. There are 3 aluminium parks coming up: Angul, Jharsuguda, and Sambalpur. And put together, these 3 places are producing 3 million tons of aluminium. Take hot metal, supply this, meet the demand of India's requirement of nearly 1 million ton of semis and components for automobile and railways and defense and space requirements and aeronautics of the USA and the world over. You supply, take it to your country. Yes, you have duties on your primary aluminium, but do you have duties on components? Suppose an automobile producer or a two-wheeler producer or a household goods producer or a bottle producer or a can producer gets its semi-finished components to get the finished product out of the country to export at a cheaper price. Will you still have duties? There are duties. Yes, every country wants to stop primary aluminium being brought in. But the component part, every government supports. India government is also supporting in the component part. See, Mahindras have moved their tractor production to China. A lot of American companies and the European companies are now making their automobiles in China. We wanted them to come to India, they didn't come because we can't produce their components. If the European community, for their 75% requirement, can produce at least 50% of their requirement of components in India, take it back to their countries, and another 25% to supply to Indian automobile building, it's a win-win situation for everyone. American companies have started thinking in these lines. Russians have started thinking in these lines for defense production. Japanese have started thinking in these lines. Koreans have started thinking in these lines for both aluminium and steel. They wanted steel plants in India to supply to the Korean car manufacturers who are emerging as one of the world's largest suppliers from India. Tatas are moving their heavy vehicle produced buses and trucks production to Latin America. The parts can be supplied out of here. The win-win situation is to think what you are lacking in your supply chain, meet it from the end where the supply is available. If the world economy is not going to improve in the next 4-5 years and go to bad, the surplus aluminium in India and China is going to be enormous. Surplus aluminium in Middle East, Dubai, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia is going to be enormous. Korea and Japan are going to make a huge advantage of it. And then Europe has to not only compete with cost efficiency of China and innovation of China, they will also be in a fist fight with Japan and Korea. Please, emerging markets of this thing is very serious matter. And One more thing is that aluminium is getting serious threats from stainless steel. Aluminium is getting serious threats from composites.
Yeah.
So aircrafts are being now made with composites, and in defense production also composites are being used in a big way.
Yes.
Is in aluminium industry ready to think not in isolation of Italy and EU, but worldwide? If
may I say something? I don't see really a strong competition of aluminum with other materials. This is not the threat, in my opinion, in the very next years. From our point of view, we see the main problems in the trading rules. The trading rules are the key of the future. We are speaking now of aluminum, but we should speak also of magnesium, of silicon. In Italy, as you know, is losing the magnesium for preparing the alloys.
Right.
And then what have we to do? This is the question. What is the role of China? Will the rules will be followed by everybody? The question, this is the focal point.
No, you're very right.
Very well explained the dynamics, Mr. Pani, of the international aluminum business and from where the material flows to which destinations. In fact, my take on this is generally when economies grow, their uses of aluminum also grows. Be seen from you can see from rural to urban uses more aluminum. Rural regions don't even use much aluminum. That's one thing. Secondly, Western countries, developed countries, will definitely use more aluminum than Eastern countries. That is another thing. So as you said, the flow of finished goods should be from Eastern countries to Western countries. That is a natural phenomenon which will happen, which is happening today also, and which will increase in the future. What is your take on this, Mr. Pani?
Yes, it's required to, but you see, with due apologies to Mario, Western countries are very conservative when it comes to sharing technology, where Japan and Korea have not been so. See, China makes it a policy that you can come and set up your industry in their country. For 10 years, you have the exclusive right. After 10 years, the technology has to be transferred to Chinese company.
Oh.
We don't have. So that's how the European companies are not very successful in China. Whereas if you drive from Beijing airport to the city, about nearly 100 kilometers, you will find rows of Japanese and Korean factories.
Mm-hmm.
So they are ready to transfer and move on to next one. But the European companies are not ready to transfer. You can see how the American and European car manufacturers have failed in India.
Mm.
They failed in India. Fiat didn't work. Volvo didn't work. Ford didn't work. Chevrolet didn't work. But Hyundai, Toyota, and all other Japanese and Korean automobiles are flourishing. So there has to be a shift in the mindset of that. Pardon me, that colonial shift has to come out of the European community.
But what is the reason, sir? Korean and Japanese cars are flourishing in India and Western cars are not. What is
the Americans and the Europeans thought that they can bring their old model and run down factories, second-hand factories into India, use the cheap labor and produce old model cars.
Okay.
Whereas the Japanese and the Koreans, they brought in their latest models before the world launch. They were launching in India.
Okay.
And the factories are absolutely world-class, as far as they brought in a new culture of manufacturing into the country. Whereas the European companies, the American companies did not do that. So that is how these companies have failed. Whereas, you have to marry the culture, work culture. You have to improve the work culture of India and take it up to that thing as a helping hand. But if you think that we are going to rule, we are going to control the technology, we are going to control pricing, we are going to control R&D, we are going to control everything, well,
That
you
will
can see
not work. That will not work.
the result is before everyone to see.
Mr. Mario, your take on this?
I remember I was in India, if I remember well, 3 years ago. We made a tour visiting some sites, and we had some discussion with the Aluminium Association in India. And
that's exactly what I was reminding you.
Sure, I remember. But I suppose that the doors must be much more open than today. But the basic question are the rules of trading to be discussed together, must be clear, because obviously something is much better to be some type of production would be more convenient in India, for example, than in Italy. But it is necessary to find the balance, obviously, between the different interests of the different countries. In my opinion, it is necessary to do the things where it is most convenient they can be done, but following the rules completely. Now, in the aluminium sector, what I see, the area where much more definition must be made is that on the aluminium content of the metal, on the CO2 imprinting of the metal, because it is the basic. We must look for, from my point of view, in Europe, we should help the coming in Europe of green aluminium. This is the point. This is the point, and this is the best invitation and the best suggestion that I can give to the India, with whom Italy is working very well. Now, many of your companies are represented in Italy, and the import of primary aluminum from India has grown very much in the past years in Italy. It is a good signal, because we can give, as you were saying, we must bring the technology, the semis technology, the foundry technology in India, and we must have a good material in Europe. I want to say another point. We are speaking of the innovation, new application, etc. In Italy, we see a very severe risks in the changing of the electrical autos. The production will change very, very deeply, and many type of productions will be converted, must be changed. And what will be the result on the companies, on the workers? And this is not a simple thing. And we all should think much more of this point. And it is not so clear that the electrical auto is the best choice for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Conserva. I think we are now discussing for 1.5 hours. So unless we have something further to discuss, I think we can end this very interesting conversation. Mr. Nandi, you have some point to contribute or?
No, it's a very interesting, and what Mr. Pani has told is a very interesting
Absolutely, I was
discussion.
very impressed, Mr. Pani.
Pani was
really,
good. It is absolutely good. And what I feel in general, that this primary aluminium industry will die in Europe. It's not having good future in Europe because of many issues, your manpower cost and your energy cost and all those things. Primary aluminium will be mainly manufactured in this part of the world, in Asia, in Middle East.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Gulf countries. And of course, the red mud and these dirty things European will never like to have this thing for a longer time. And even in Australia also, aluminium industries are not growing. There's only raw material growing and at the most alumina because of the very high manpower cost, very high other associated costs. Whereas India, China, Malaysia, Singapore, this part of the world, Indonesia.
Aluminium industry also depends on the population. If there is no demand of finished aluminium, where they will sell.
Exactly.
No, I would say even Latin America is going to come up.
Brazil particularly, and then Brazil, some African countries.
Will come up
in future, at least for alumina production. Sir, because it is better to bring.
Just a minute, sir. We have discussed about Southeast Asia. We have discussed about Europe and US, but we have not discussed about Middle East and Africa. What is your take, Mr. Pani, on this? Middle East, of course, there are aluminium industries very well developed, and they have the aluminium metal, and they have the demand. So I would like you to discuss about more of Africa.
See, China has marched into Africa in a very big way.
Okay.
They have captured mineral deposits of every kind from east to west and north to south.
Okay.
And their presence is so strong that yes, they are going to invest quite heavily into Africa in producing primary metals now. Not only aluminium, steel, magnesium, silicon, ferroalloys, everything they are investing. And that's the reason this road and connecting to Gadar port. Yes, and the railway link to doorsteps of Africa is being built. That's where otherwise Africa doesn't have money to invest.
Yeah.
China has bag full of money. And
I am working in
African market will be ripe.
No market there, not yet, but there'll be a supplier region.
I'm very closely working.
I agree completely with this idea. Completely for the future of the Africa.
Well, I am working in Africa very closely. I visit very often this Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Ghana, these countries where a lot of bauxite is there. These countries have their own issues. It is not easy to set up even alumina or aluminium plant in these countries. First of all, for example, Guinea, the largest producer of bauxite and largest exporters of bauxite, not only exporters of bauxite, they are reaching about 100 million tons per annum. But if you see this country, except bauxite, there is nothing. There is no power, there is no energy source, there is no infrastructure. Of course, some infrastructure is being built by Chinese, and there is no qualified manpower. They are all just working like laborers. So setting up any alumina plant, so many years, these countries, we had organized some conferences, IBAAS organized some conferences in Guinea, and just they don't have political will to set up any alumina refinery. As long as their bauxite is sold.
Sierra Leone, Guinea, who was ruling these countries? Europe.
They are French people, but now it is long time. Like India, we have got freedom almost same time Guinea got freedom. But their attitude is not still changed, not change, and they don't have any other resources except bauxite. So only bauxite is not required for making alumina. You need a lot of things to be imported from all over the world. But yes, instead of exporting 3 tons of bauxite, you can make 1 ton of alumina in that country, and then your economics will work out. But these governments are all unstable governments, and they keep changing. Sometimes military rule, sometimes so-called democracy, but very weak democracy. And corruption is the very big factor over there, what I have seen very closely. And that's the reason companies like BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto could not survive over there. And ultimately, it is only Chinese company who can manage with any type of government or any type of people. They can just manage with them. So this is one of the very negative things in these countries. So this is my observation, because I was very closely working with many of bauxite mines. Still they make a plan, but it is all like only on the papers only. Nothing. It doesn't come out of the papers.
You know, most of the African and Latin American countries, Chinese don't need a visa to enter.
Yes, and yes, that's another thing. Chinese have really dominated there a lot, and without your nationalistic willpower and other things, it is very difficult to compel companies to set up value-added products or value addition in that country. So this is Africa will take long time, except of course developed country like Mozambique and South Africa. They are much better. Kenya and other these countries, they are better. Tanzania, but not this West African country like Guinea, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and other countries.
East and North is better, isn't it? East and
North is like Arabian country, like Algeria and Morocco.
Part of MENA region, no?
Yeah. That is like Arabian countries, but they don't have this kind of resources. At least for bauxite, this Guinea and Sierra Leone and Ghana, they are the main countries, but they have their own issues and own problem. And
Anisa, what is the situation in Middle East?
Middle East is going very strong, and they have the interesting part of it is that Bahrain, Dubai, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia have investing very heavily into education and research
and non-oil sectors.
Yes, non-oil sectors, and their locals are getting very good education in their local universities, and I was quite impressed with the kind of research they are doing on the application side, both on the primary aluminium and metal production, and also on the application side. So that is the impressive part, which is missing in going down in Europe, but the Middle East is going to remain prosperous and will keep doing well for a long time to come.
Thank you.
I agree.
Enough, I think. Yeah,
I agree completely. Mr. Chair, I agree completely with the vision of Mr. Pani about the Middle East. The Middle East approach to the aluminium development was very fine with education, local education, and now they are working very much. They are with European technologies. There is a very deep exchange of knowledge and exchange of ideas. Very good, very good. I see interesting developments.
Thank you, Mr. Conserva. Now I think we have discussed almost everything. Right from the start, we have discussed about bauxite and alumina, and Mr. Nandi gave a very good overview of what are the challenges, especially in India, for producing bauxite and alumina, where are the issues and what needs to be done. Thank you very much, Mr. Nandi, for giving an excellent status report of this sector. Then we got a very good status report from Mr. Conserva on what is the situation in European aluminum industry, especially downstream industry, how they are importing most of the primary material and then converting the downstream products from them. Thank you, Mr. Conserva, for a very elaborate description of European industry with the help of the slides. And it was really very good. Thank you. And you came at such an early hour to your office and then to be with us for this discussion. I really admire. I really appreciate. Then Mr. Pani gave an excellent overview of the dynamics of the aluminum business, new applications and emerging markets. It was fantastic, fabulous know-how, Mr. Pani. I'm really very happy that you are still in so much close contact with what is happening all over the world regarding aluminum. Really, I appreciate your hard work and your salute to your experience in aluminum industry. So we had an excellent session on covering everything, covering right from Africa to the developed nations and what role India can play, what role China is playing in Africa and other countries. So it was overall, it was a fantastic discussion. I think a lot of things to take away for aluminum professionals from all sectors, from all value chain, right from bauxite alumina to the finished goods and the downstream products and the applications. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody, Mr. Nandi, Mr. Pani, Dr. Conserva, and thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, my friends.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mario.
Pleasure being with you. Right.
We remain in contact.
And I also thank your colleague, Nancy. Where is she?
Nancy is here.
Thank you. Thank you for making it possible.
Thank you for having us.
We are waiting for you. We hope that you come to our next Metef. We shall speak of many teams of aluminum, mainly devoted to the foundry castings, to the big